Hey all, and welcome to a brand new Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and this is a very special episode. It is a live stream from our election day coverage. Don't worry, no politics. What we did is we decided to do a Geek Freaks live while people are waiting in line to vote, talking about the latest thing in geek culture as we normally do. We also talk about which Marvel villains would be a good bad guy. I think we're going to save that one for Patreon, but it'll be free, so you can check it out over there. And we talk about Agatha all along. We do a different, unique way of reviewing, which I really liked, and might be something we do more in the future, to be honest with you. We're also kicking off our charity for the year. We like to do a charity at the end of every year. This one's going to be the Elk Grove Animal Shelter. We're doing a fundraiser for them. You can follow the links in the description. It's a GoFundMe that'll go straight to them. The money goes direct to them. Every bit counts. $1, $50, $5, 50 cents, whatever you got. But it really helps out. The Elk Grove Animal Shelter, they are a no-kill shelter, so they keep the pets for however long it takes. And I remember they had a dog recently that was 2 years there. They ended up making mugs and making posters and really made him like a mascot of the, and luckily he found a home. A lot of the animals, a lot of the dogs they have there are pit bulls and German shepherds and huskies. Kind of harder dogs to house sometimes, or they get a bad rep from people who don't know any better. And so it takes a while for them to find a home. And the Elk Grove Animal Shelter is a place where you come meet these wonderful dogs, keep them company. You could even play with the cats there. They have a whole cool cat shelter area. And it's a really amazing place. We're going to be sharing the stories of our animals over the next 2 months as we try to raise money for this wonderful shelter. And I'll be starting off next week with Aang, who I actually adopted from the Elk Grove Animal Shelter, and that's how I first met them. But we'll save that for next month. We're also teaming up with Beauty Biscuits. Beauty Biscuits is ran by the outstanding Sunny from the Book of Lies podcast. That is, by the way, a funny and interesting podcast. So worth your subscribe. Check that out. Drop them a review. But Sunny is the head of Beauty's Biscuits, and Beauty is the name of her dog. And these dog treats are very affordable, and the dogs love them. My dog, Beans, who unfortunately passed away a little over a year ago, the last few months of his life, he was in pain. He had a tumor. And you could get CBD versions of the dog treats from Beauty's Biscuits, and they were, you could tell he just enjoyed them so much. And it was hard to get him to eat some days. You really love these treats. So you can follow the link in the description, guys, for Beauty Biscuits. If you use code GEEKFREAKS, you get 20% off. And you're supporting a local business. I mean, it's everything you could want. Helping dogs, local business. We got it all here, folks. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. Again, this is a live stream, so we're talking to chat. It's a little bit messy. It's a little bit fun. And we hope to see you on the next one, too. Have fun with this one. You're all waiting to vote. You're all in line and stuff like that. Lord knows that can be stressful, just as technology can be stressful. And so we're going to be talking about different geek culture stuff, basically recording a couple of our podcasts here and going over a few things. We're going to first start off with the geek news. By the way, I am Frank. I am host of Geek Freaks, Challenge Accepted, and a few other things, Outlast Podcast and whatnot. Thomas, why don't you introduce yourself?
Aloha, everybody. Welcome to this first inaugural, wow, I'm using a lot of election words here. Inaugural episode of a live stream across the board. We got Geek Freaks in here. We got Challenge Accepted, and I'm part of the Joystick Show. And it's a fun day to be on here and kind of not look at the news. And talk about news that, really doesn't have as much stakes, which is geek news. And that is a lot more fun and a lot more lighthearted. That's kind of where my brain is at right now and all my emotions can handle. So I'm happy to be here.
There we go. Okay, so if you're ready, I think we should start digging into the Marvel roadmap, and let's dig into that. You want to do that?
Let's do it. I'm going to hit record, though, on whatever this thing is called, the app we use to record our episodes.
Audacity, probably. Oh, Zoom.
I could do that too, but at least
no, that's good. That's perfect.
Okay. Yep. Too much technology. I'm overwhelmed.
Just to confirm, it is recording on your side, because I remember one time when we didn't have it recorded after the approval thing.
Okay, good. Yeah, yep.
It is.
Sweet.
It is recording. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So let's go ahead and dig into the Marvel major release roadmap that got leaked at first and then finally got put out there. First and foremost, Deadpool and Wolverine's coming out November 12th on Disney+. Do you think the window for Deadpool and Wolverine in theaters was long enough, or they should have waited longer?
I think it was good. I mean, they got their billion. right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, they got their billion plus. They're in that top 10 movies grossing of all time, right? Beat out Barbie, which was like, Barbie was phenomenal showing. That was in the theaters for a long time. But I also just got my Steelbook for it.
Oh yeah.
That I pre-ordered on Amazon. Yeah. Okay, I will say this though. I'm hyped. That's definitely what I'm going to be watching tonight because I don't want to know about results till it's finished. You know, I don't want to see the chaos. So I'm going to be playing that. But it was like $65 to pre-order. And then after shipping and everything, it was like almost $72.
Damn.
So it was, almost $100 for the full Steelbook collection of Deadpool and Wolverine. It's pricey.
Do you feel like it's worth it? Did it come with anything additional than just the movie that you felt like made it worth it?
I mean, one, I'm a giant nerd and I really wanted it. I had the first two Deadpool movies on DVD. So I was like, okay, I'm definitely buying this one. I was like, oh, let's get Steelbook. But I guess there's some behind the scenes. There is a digital code that you can plug into. And I don't know. That's about it. So I have no idea. Other than that, I just overpaid for a movie I've already seen 3 times in theaters.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I could go grab it.
No, that's as long as you feel like it's a good purchase on your end. I can't imagine spending that much for a movie. Like if I'm looking at like even my favorites, you know, Shawshank, Jaws, stuff like that. I'm like, if they had to like invent another hour of content for me to want to spend that much money, that's pretty crazy. And I am a physical media guy, so yeah, that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I think like the most expensive like movie collection I'd seen at the time was Drake. You know, got his like the extended edition for the Lord of the Rings original trilogy. And that one came with like an extra hour of movie or 2 hours for every movie, right? So that actually did seem like it was worth it at the time. Although that was before we had real jobs, you know? So it was like, dude, you spent how much on that just to watch the Lord of the Rings? Like, you know, and again, I'm like, who's going to have 16 hours to just watch the Lord of the Rings? But he got it and he did. So it was probably worth it for him.
Shout out to Distance Nerding real quick, a fellow Sacramento podcast all about geek culture as well. Check that out.
Nice.
Made a great point. There's nothing left to watch anymore after Agatha all along. So we need something on there. It was a really good time for them to release it. And they have all my money. That's so true. Shout out to I got one here. Turn.
What's up, Puppet Masters? What's going on? Puppet Master Castle Freaks. What's up, guys? Thanks for joining.
All right, next up, What If Season 3 coming out December 22nd. Now that releases daily like last season. I really enjoyed that myself again as the single dude that's like, I don't have to go to the in-laws, Christmas parties. I got What If to watch. Are you all looking forward to that this time around? Last time I know you weren't a big fan.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat the question just in case people can't hear me over here. But yeah, What If Season 3 all releasing the same day? I am not a fan. I don't like that because usually for Christmas, like we're always traveling around. Me and my wife, like her parents live north of LA. My family's in Hawaii. And, I got family scattered all over the place. So like traveling around in different places, bringing the dogs with us, like it's so hard for me just to consecutively sit down and watch those. There's a bunch of other things going on, right? So, and I want to watch it right when it comes out. And that one, I can't commit 9 days straight to watching that. So I'm not a fan of that release schedule. So
we're gonna have to cover them all at the end, but we will be like doing mini reviews every single day that they come out. Heading back to 8-Bit Turn. Thank you so much. We're happy to try out the live thing. We need to do this more often by far. Distance Nerding, I appreciate that so much, man. Make sure you guys check out Distance Nerding. And by the way, I expect an invite to your guys' podcast pretty soon. I want to hang out and talk about all things geek. So hit me up. By the way, they go live often too, so check that out, guys. I know I'm pretty bad about joining lives, but I need to be good about that.
We're learning.
What If, I think, is some of the better things that Marvel does with Disney Plus. Prior to Agatha all along, which I really enjoyed. It's creative, it's imaginative. We got Simu coming back for this season, and it really kind of expands on some of my favorite things with comic books, where you're just like, I just want to see this person do crazy things. Okay, well, let's have them fight zombies, which we are getting that zombie spinoff and stuff.
Yeah. Which is what we would do as kids, right? You're like, what if this happened, right? Or like, what if the Power Rangers showed up and then fought the X-Men or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You got all your toys.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like, yeah. The action figures, like, what if The Rock fought, Michelangelo from TMNT and then here comes a sword. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Which is the best. I know. I could do that for hours. It was awesome. I'm very curious on the Simu episode how the whole Western aspect is going to play into it. Like, it could be, what if Wenwu showed up in the Old West? What if, the whole world was a Western? There's so much they could do with that. And it's going to be interesting. Like, as Shang-Chi is as like a gunslinger, but is he going to have the rings? Like, what? I don't think they're going to give him a gun. So what is like the gunslinging aspect to it?
What if they do give him a gun, but the gun is the 10 rings enchanted item? And so it has like, it's shooting, I don't know, magic bullets or something like that. It's what ifs. It's like literally anything can happen. Yeah.
That's true. I don't know. That one would be a little interesting, but I like that. If it's like the period piece we got from last season where it was like the 1400s or whatever it was, where everybody was kind of like the Four Musketeers kind of situation. I don't know what that time period is called, but I really dug that episode. I like that we got a Captain America brought back into it, and we had Captain Carter there, and it was just kind of like, it was all the characters we had known, but just done in a different style from a different time period. I dig the crap out of that. So I think this is going to be awesome. And we haven't gotten that much Shang-Chi. So more Shang-Chi, like the better for me.
Real quick over on chat again, guys, we're doing this live if you're listening to the actual podcast recording. This is Nerding says we're both invited on the 11/19. We better make sure our schedules are freed up for that one. I took a picture of that and I'll send it to your way so we can figure that out.
All right.
And then his dad has the rings in the beginning. Showed that he had it in the helicopter, the rings on.
The way those sentences merged made me think This is Nerding had the rings.
I wouldn't be surprised. By the way, I know they've got Deadpool on call over there. Okay. Every time I see them at a con, there's always Deadpool showing up, so I would not be surprised. Awesome. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, now that's coming out January 29th, and I want to shout out, before we get into the actual show, they revealed the comic book. It was I forget what it's called, I always have it coming up, but it's going to be a 5-issue run of the comic book. It's going to show us early days of Peter Parker and kind of introduce us into the show, and that's coming December 11th, if I remember correctly. Okay. Now, one of the things that Marvel's kind of lost recently, the MCU, is this grounded kind of returning back to just an average person getting superpowers. And I think Spider-Man's one of the best examples of that. So giving us this early days of a Tom Holland version Spider-Man is a really good option. And I'm looking forward to those 5 issues. I'm really looking forward to this series. Are you tuning in?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'll definitely be on board for that comic too. But I think it's interesting because you're right. We haven't gotten an origin for Tom Holland Spider-Man in the MCU, right? It's the story we all pretty much know, but there's been variations from Toby to Andrews to Tom's. It's all been a little bit different. And it's interesting that we're getting this cartoon in the way that we are, because they also said this is a different multiverse or universe, right? And so it's like, it is kind of his origin, but it's also kind of not. And I think, I don't know, it's just a weird way to do it. It's like, why make it an alternate universe? And then they're going to be bringing in all these like classic villains that we know. We're getting Norman Osborn. We're getting, I think the Vulture's in there. We're getting some people that haven't been in the MCU already. And I think, not from our universe, right? We've gotten them from other universes from No Way Home, but I don't know. I just think this is a really interesting way to do it. And I'm curious to see how this makes sense and also relates to the Tom Holland story after No Way Home. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it can wrap it up. By the way, I am still seeing it's releasing 2025, but I could be wrong.
Yep. Yeah, I'm pretty sure coming out 2025 for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure on that one. I'll double check. But that either way, I mean, I'm looking forward to that. It will be nice to see how they can kind of tie it up to something we already have. Maybe we could get some information about this young Tom Holland version of Spider-Man that will influence the next phase of Spider-Man movies that we're getting into. Which I am all for, because I mean, boy, we got the Black Suit, we got Secret Wars coming up, that's going to be definitely tied into that. And it sounds like that new Spider-Man movie is going to be taking place in between the 2 Avengers movies. So we're in a post-Doom world now, and how will that affect what he does and what stakes he's willing to put out there to be able to save the day at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be One thing I want to shout out though on the cartoon before we get too far ahead is like this animation looks incredible because we've seen so many different types of animation now, right? You got your Pixar style, you've got what DreamWorks is doing, and you got that wild robot look. And then we got into the Spider-Verse and across the Spider-Verse. And that's really unique, right? They keep painting it different ways depending on or drawing it different ways depending on the universe you're in that show. But this still looks unique. And it looks really cool. It's kind of like the characters are flat, but the background is three-dimensional. Right. And I dig it. Like, it's so cool. And also like they're kind of paneling it out too. So it's like taking inspiration from Across the Spider-Verse, but it's still unique. I really, really like this animation style for, into, what is it? Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It looks awesome. It
does. The shouts, I'll get to you in just a second, 8-Bit. The Todd McFarlane, did a really good interview with Wired where he explains his animation styles for Spider-Man and how he would make it multiple dimensions and how he'd give you a foreground and a background and stuff like that. It's very good discussion. And in that, he did a really good, or I'm seeing a lot of that, used in this, where they're purposely using Spider-Man here and the background here and making them feel like it's this different force perspectives and stuff like that. It's creative. It's giving you that comic book panel that's moving in front of you. Shout out to 8-Bit real quick saying, doesn't it make more sense for him to be in a different universe? Maybe he could show up in the Spider-Verse. Now,
that's a good idea.
This is definitely a good way to do it to where you wouldn't hurt anything in the movies at all. It's probably the safest bet. But in doing it this way, you're reintroducing the MCU Spider-Man to a very convoluted MCU. Like, I'm definitely not one of those guys that says the MCU's lost anything. I think that they're in a different phase right now, but they're still there. But that being said, this is a good way to kind of be like, hey, this is our Spider-Man. You guys are going to get him back. We're going to get back to the stories that you already know and love. And we're kind of phasing past multiverse here pretty soon. Yeah,
that's true. But it's funny, like you're kind of getting an origin, but you're kind of not. And that's why I think this is funny, it's cool. You're right. It probably won't affect anything in the movies, but don't we want to see how he got his power? Like his first years, like we know he gets bit by a spider, all that stuff, but it's like, it would be kind of cool to see him discovering how it went. Like we got a brief taste of that in Civil War. Yeah. And then in Homecoming, but it's like, I don't know. So it's just funny. Like I'm all for it. I think it looks awesome. I like the cast of characters that are going to be in it. I just think it's funny that it's kind of an origin, but kind of not.
Yeah. But like what 8-Bit's saying is you almost want it to be multiverse just because like, don't mess anything up, It's always nice to kind of play it safe sometimes. And it's kind of the benefit of multiverse, like where you can play around with stuff like this. So True. I don't blame you on that one. Wrapping up here, we got Daredevil Born Again, March 4th, 2025. I'm so eagerly waiting for this. Yeah, everything I've seen so far looks good. We got that trailer recently too. Grounded, superheroes, feels like the Netflix series again. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it looks fantastic. I have a lot of Daredevil to read up on. I know we got like some Devil's Reign in there. I know that we got, I'm trying to think of the big one where Kingpin knows his identity. Shout it out in the comics if you know which run I'm talking about. But I love Charlie Cox's Daredevil. As you know, I've kind of been going back and watching some of them again. I just finished The Punisher. I finished season 1 of Daredevil not too long. I think it was last year. So man, it's crazy though that this year's gone by that fast because it feels like just yesterday I was watching that. But and then I want to watch season 2, season 3 coming up, and just to have these guys back in. To me, like one of the best casting decisions, even though it was Marvel Netflix, it's still top tier casting, and both guys kill it, and the dynamics are great. Like it feels like it's catching up from where we left off with them, but then also like allowing more MCU things in there. Like he's going to be more acrobatic. The CGI I guarantee is going to be better. It might be a little bit more faster paced. All the of this traversal
stuff, too. He plans on using his actual traversal abilities from the comics.
Totally. Yeah. Even the Billy Clubs, you're right, where he's shooting it out and stuff. It's way more fantastical. It's way more like MCU. And I don't know, like, I don't think that takes away from the groundedness. I still think, but I just think it adds. I think we're getting in addition to, not subtracting from.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to see the addition of any other characters that he might have had run-ins with the past? We've seen She-Hulk and we've seen Echo. Do you think we're going to get any of those popping up in his story?
I don't mind seeing Echo. Sorry, but I kind of mind if She-Hulk pops up, knowing, the feeling that we got from her show and how he was in there, which was just like everything was a joke. And then you can take anything serious. I don't think She-Hulk's a good move to bring in there. But hey, it's Marvel. If they have a plan, if they're going to make it work, then sure. But I think if anything, we see Echo. It'd be cool if we saw like Hawkeye too.
Hawkeye solid, but with Echo, the way we ended things off, especially with her ties to Kingpin, I think it's a really good option to bring her in for a little bit, if not immediately into this season. Maybe we tease her as a big part of the following season, because Disney Plus is not going to want to let this die. I know we're getting a shortened season on this one than we were originally promised. So maybe we get teased where it's like, hey, Echo's coming in and Elektra maybe is more involved and stuff like that. Because I think we also need to get Elektra back at some point too. We lost her in the second season of the Netflix version. So let's bring her anew. Let's bring her with the not Foot Clan, the hand. I always,
yeah. Ninja Turtles and Daredevil are so interconnected. That's a fun deep dive on YouTube if you ever have a chance. But I thought, wasn't she reborn in season 3? She might have been. I can't remember. She might have been, yeah. It's been a long time. Yeah. But it's like, I wonder if they're going to keep, because I heard a rumor that she was recast, the same girl that was in like Our Lady from the Netflix series. So I don't know, but either way, I think the villain too is incredible. Muse is psychotic. I know a brief stint of like, it's just kind of a basic dive into it, but I have to read through those comics because killing people and like using their blood to create art is twisted. Yeah. And then his power to take away your senses, and then Daredevil's whole ability is enhanced senses is like crazy. Well done on like the writing of this villain. And yeah, it seems almost insurmountable. On top of, you have Kingpin, who's still probably being Kingpin, even though he's trying to be good and be this elected official and stuff. I don't know. I just think there's a lot of different villains in this series for Daredevil. I'm
really hoping that we see Kingpin side with Daredevil because he's being hunted down by Muse. Like Muse was hired by somebody to take out Kingpin, and so then we see this idea of like, well, I got to protect you. Like that would be a really cool dynamic. That I love whenever we get that in a comic book, when like Lex Luthor and Superman have to work together for something. That's always fun. Yeah, absolutely. I wonder. I mean, like, but who could be hiring him to kill Kingpin? I mean, I wish it was, or I guess my hope would be, it's like the MCU's version of like Norman Osborn. Oh, yes. And then Norman Osborn steps in. We know we're getting the Thunderbolts. Right. And then after it's flipped, right? And then we get, okay, it's not the Thunderbolts, it's Dark Avengers. Now you have Norman Osborn come in there and he's actually like the head of the Dark Avengers, just like the comics. Yeah. Oh, man, that'd be great. That'd be great. By the way, guys, those joining the live, we're going to be doing Challenge Accepted later on as well. We're going to be talking about the Veep. I'm not sure if we'll stick with this channel. I know we're kind of having some technical issues with that. We'll figure that out soon. But thank you for hanging out with us so far. Our next show that really surprised me. Yeah, can I repeat that? Hey, everybody, too. Just let you know, if you can't see the opposite side or the other side, I'm with Frank over at Geek Freaks, and I think we're streaming on Challenge Accepted as well. So go follow us over there, and you'll probably get to see the entire conversation. I know it's probably a little bit one-sided for all of you, but thanks for hanging out. Hopefully, this provides a little distraction on this little crazy day. Yeah, unfortunately with the multi-stream, for some reason, it won't let me stream to multiple Instagram accounts. That would have just been easier. But instead it has to be just like multiple platforms, whatever. We're figuring it out. I tell you what, I was so impressed by the trailer for Ironheart because that suit looks cool. It looks way better, in my opinion, than the one we got from Wakanda Forever. And I think she fits into the MCU quite well now. Before it felt like a Power Ranger. But now this is like, oh, I see that. That looks clean. That looks awesome. Right. Yeah. I mean, I like Riri Williams. I really even liked her in Wakanda Forever. You're right. The suit looked, a little Power Ranger, a little bit like a little CGI heavy. It almost looked like plastic too. I didn't love that, but that's a good point. They did something really smart in the trailer. They gave it that clinking sound where, if you look back to Tony Stark and the suit dropping down and the mask coming down on like the Mark IV or whatever, it had that really iron sounding like dink. And then you also hear the arc reactor powering up. And those two things was an awesome cue in the trailer. Like, oh, this is going to be more attuned to the Iron Man that you guys are familiar with. Yeah, this isn't Tony Stark. It's not Robert Downey Jr. Right. But it is very unique. Riri is different, but also it's like, hey, there's some things that you're familiar with. And it's doing this cool thing of like, taking that CGI look, but also grounding it in reality, very similar to what we saw in Iron Man 1. So I think this trailer has kind of hit it on the head for people who kind of missed the Iron Man character being in the MCU. Yeah. Now, Riri again they're not going to try to make her Iron Man. I think that's important for people to understand. But you're right with like little things like sound design. Maybe we even get some Iron Maiden in the background at some point. It would be really cool to kind of like hint at like, hey, this is very much the same kind of vibe you wanted from before. What do you think about her villain, and what are your hopes for him?
Oh man, Anthony Ramos! I love Anthony Ramos as an actor. He can do it all. I mean, he's so talented. I know him from Hamilton. And, you know, he's a tremendous singer, actor, but he kind of has a lot of swag to him. And in this show, he's like all buff, he's tattooed, but he also has the hood from the comics. Again, another character I have to read up on a lot, but he has this mixture of magic and then just guns. So he's a pretty wild villain, but he's also kind of been a hero in some aspects. I'm pretty sure he's gotten the Infinity Gauntlet. And so it's really cool to see this character kind of come to the forefront, but it seems like, and I think they've even said this, it's magic versus technology. And that is always a fun premise to me. Like anytime you get, like somebody from the future who goes back to the past, but things are a lot more mystical back then. You know, it's like a modern day person who goes to like the King Arthur times. It's just like some of my favorite stories. So kind of bringing that into this world, you know, in a different aspect of magic again, like different than what we just saw in Agatha. Yeah. What do you think about the hood?
I like that idea of the magic and technology. It reminds me so much of the Gargoyle series from the 90s, where that was very much what that series is about, was, you know, this old medieval times, and then you got Xanatos. And so if we can get a little bit of that too, of how the two worlds will clash, will be really neat to see them butt heads, because we now have this MCU where they're both established so well. Agatha, Doctor Strange, whatnot. That with the Iron Man side of things, we got Armor Wars coming up too, the movie that they're making now. It'll be really cool to see those two clash. And now I haven't thought about that before, but I am more excited about that now after you said that. That's cool. Yeah.
It's there's so much they could do with this. And I think Anthony Ramos is a fantastic actor, but like the hood, man, it's going to be awesome. And we know for sure we're getting Mephisto. Okay, I know I keep dropping the Mephisto thing, but they literally said it in Agatha, and we know he's been cast. So it's like, all right, that to me seems like a weirder place to put Mephisto than in Agatha, where like literally her story has been tied to him in so many places, along with Billy Maximoff, along with Thomas Kemper. I don't know why Shepard, Tommy Shepard. So like literally he's been tied to those characters from the comics. So I don't know. It's weird, but I'm excited for Ironheart. I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, me too. Yes, Gargoyles is a good show. I'm going to shout out to Batman animated series. That's what got us into comic books for a lot of us. And that was a good shout out.
X-Men the animated series, baby, for me.
Yeah, of course. Oh my God. Yeah, that intro. Okay, let's move on to Eyes of Wakanda. That's coming out August 6th, 2025. Same animation we got from What If, and we have Marvel Zombies coming in the 2 months after that. But with Eyes of Wakanda, I believe we're looking at an origin story for what we know of modern Wakanda, correct?
Yeah. So I think Eyes of Wakanda is actually more in the past, right? So is before we have T'Chaka, before we have T'Challa, and he's going back. It's basically an elite force from Wakanda that's going around and trying to collect these vibranium artifacts. And I think it's an awesome premise because it just looks different. Plus, we're getting more Wakanda, which is always a good thing. But it's like, how did they get to where they're at? How did they stay secretive? How did they, I mean, even the suits look different, right? It's like we're used to the Dora Milaje, but in this one, it's white and gold. You know, there's a dude with like a lion's mane and kind of a lot, like it looks more like Killmonger. And so I don't know, I'm stoked about this. Also to see how, anytime I get a little taste of like how the history was developed. We even got in What If where T'Chaka was there, part of the early Avengers. And he was like, hey, remember I gave you that piece of vibranium for the shield? Like that kind of stuff is like, ooh, nice. So I'm stoked about this one too.
Dora Milaje is incredibly cool, right? But it's good to see that there are other fighting forces out there that maybe are not fully explored in the MCU. So showing the different aspects of not only the Wakandan culture, but the surrounding culture, because they're also very different. And so this is your chance to kind of introduce them, start to get them. We get a little bit of that in like Black Panther when they're at the council. But let's show them off. Let's show them their unique fighting forces or fighting styles. I'm sorry. And that could be a really cool thing. And then also it's a great way to introduce people. Like you said with Captain America, maybe we get Dr. Doom is too big of a name, but like, hey, somebody found a little piece of vibranium in Latvia or something like that, and they start to toy with it. That's how you can get some Hydra references and stuff like that going. It's just another way, like What If, to kind of push the boundaries of the Marvel universe, and then from there we could be introduced to characters that'll later on be brought into the mainline MCU.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, if it's a world-trotting adventure too, you can bring in like, Silver Samurai in Japan. You can bring in, maybe you see an early version of Moon Knight. Like there's so much they can do, if they go to Egypt and all that stuff. So there's a lot they can do with this story. And the Wakandan world is always so amazing. It's so fantastical. It's so like innovative. And to see how, if you had this crazy technology and you kind of held it back from the world, how crazy it would be for the rest of the people in the world to be like, what is this thing that you have, and I'm super on board with it. It looks awesome.
Marvel Zombies, while Eyes of Wakanda, like, I feel like going to expand the MCU and it's going to really push things over. Marvel Zombies is much more like, let's just make the action figures hit each other. That just looks like it's going to be a blast from one end to the other. What did you think?
Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely. That was a great. I mean, obviously, it had its massive run in the comics. Like people, it was kind of supposed to be. I think it was a What If that then transformed into like, no, this is so popular. Let's turn this into a whole run in a whole universe. But yeah, getting it now in the MCU, we got that. I really liked that episode. I thought that was super fun. Seeing some of the zombies get killed by the Shield, or seeing Peter Parker have to take down zombies. And then we got I think it was it wasn't Cassie. Who was the Wasp? The Wasp, turning giant and then destroying everybody. You're right. This is just a massive battle royale situation, but we know that we're getting Shang-Chi a part of it, and we also know we're getting Miss Marvel. So seeing Miss Marvel take down zombies, seeing Shang-Chi take down zombies. Wanda,
like we saw zombie Wanda last time, and this time we're also getting zombie Thanos with glove. So it's like, my God, how powerful can the zombies get? Now, I didn't read the Marvel Zombies comic. I was a deceased guy, the DC version of that. But did you have a chance to read this? Do you know where it's kind of headed, if they're going to go off the comics?
No, I haven't read it. I know kind of the origin of it, like I was kind of mentioning, but I haven't really read it before. This, it's funny, like I'm probably one of those people that likes the idea of what ifs, but actually doesn't read them because I'm like, this doesn't matter. I'm very much like a canon building person, but I think I will go back and read it. I'm sure that this show really isn't taking too much direct inspiration from the comics, but either way, seeing them like just kill a bunch of like hero zombies or characters we've seen in the MCU as zombies is going to be fun. It's going to be super fun.
The reason I like What Ifs is because, I love that canon building Batman comics, but they're over 1,000 comics. If you want to go Detective Comics, What Ifs are like 1-5 at most comic runs that you could just jump in on. Don't need to know anything from the past because you're good. And we explore those worlds. So it is kind of a nice little break from the canon building that we get sometimes.
Yeah. It's a really popular What If that might come into play is what if Tony Stark became Dr. Doom? And that is a really big what if that I think could come into play again.
At least test the waters with it, right? Like they could be like, what if, let's get with the reactions for people and stuff like that. I think that because I could please to test that out. Right.
Because I what's your take on it? Do you think, does this Dr. Doom or is this Dr. Doom? Why am I blanking on his name right now? I don't believe it's Tony Stark is what I'm trying to say. I think it actually is Victor Von Doom, who looks like Tony Stark, but is Dr. Doom, if that makes sense.
I believe he is Tony Stark of the Fantastic Four's universe, and will follow them as the universe. Tony
Stark?
I believe he's Tony Stark. I believe he's Tony Stark of Victor Von I'm sorry. I believe he's Tony Stark of the Fantastic Four's universe, and as Galactus destroys their planet or whatever in an escape, they make a portal to our universe and jump over, and with him comes Victor Von Doom. And I think the what if that changes him is what if his dad didn't join SHIELD, what joined Hydra? Because Tony Stark's dad is very much like an early SHIELD member. What if he was an early Hydra member instead? And that would have changed the complete trajectory for Tony Stark.
Damn, that is quite the theory. That'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. I if you go with the what if from the comic, it was rather than Reed Richards going to NYU, it's actually Tony Stark that goes there instead of MIT.
Such a simple change.
So yep. And then his roommate again is Victor Von Doom. And instead of trying to change his life with Reed Richards, he then swaps bodies with Tony Stark. Yeah. And Tony Stark then having to like reclaim everything and kind of become a better version of Doom, doing what Doom would do if he wasn't just evil and like destroyed the world would be, I don't know. I think they could go that route too. But I like yours. I think that's awesome as well.
Everything I'm seeing, like I just shared to you the music they shared at the Hollywood Bowl, I believe, for Fantastic Four, and it was just like, it's perfect. Oh, I'm so on board with Fantastic Four, and I've gotten so little content for it, but I'm just so on board with the vibe already.
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. It just sounds like exploration and possibilities and adventure and all that. Yeah. So I agree. And I agree with you. Like, it's funny. I know every time anything Fantastic Four comes up with that music, I know your brain instantly goes to Star Trek. Yeah. And now my brain's instantly going to Star Trek. It's like, I'm like, oh yeah, this sounds like a Star Trek theme song. But
it definitely does. Dude, Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. Conspiracy theories. We love them. This is nerding. I'll be sharing them all day long. That's my jam.
Yeah. Okay. So real quick. Hey, everybody. Are we streaming right now on Challenge Accepted or on Geek Freaks?
Right now we're on Geek Freaks. We might switch that over. We're probably going to switch it over later on.
Okay. Everybody, I'm going to shut this down over here. Come join us over on Geek Freaks. And I'm going to see if we can, again, kind of like tie things in over there. But thank you all so much for joining on this side. I'm going to shut this thing down. Yeah, come join us over there because you'll probably be able to hear both sides. Yeah. Okay. All right. Aloha, guys.
The joystick one, by the way, it shows joysticks live, but I think that might actually be what you were just doing. So that makes sense to me.
Yep. Exactly.
We'll change streams later on too to adjust everything. So, cool. All right, let's go to the last thing that was announced in this Marvel roadmap. That's Wonder Man. We got a trailer for that as well. December 2025. I'm not super familiar with Wonder Man. Can you kind of break down this character for us?
Yeah. Simon Williams was an actor who... Sorry, my phone just reset. Sorry, everybody. Basically, an actor or is a superhuman who always wanted to be an actor, and it's pretty much damn near invincible. Super strength, endurance, all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. But at the core of who he is he just wants to be an actor. Kind of like Barry in a sense, if he had superpowers.
Oh, you're selling it. Yep.
But I love Yahya Abdul-Mateen. He's a tremendous actor. I loved him from the Watchmen show. He was incredible in that. We obviously have seen him in recent years on the DC side playing Black Manta, and I really liked him there too. I thought he was kind of underutilized in that first movie. But he's just a badass, and this show I think is going to be the sleeper hit out of all the shows. It looks so fun. It looks like a good time. Plus, we're getting Ben Kingsley back. What is it? Trevor Slattery is he's always hilarious.
Yeah,
so I think it's gonna be good.
It should be a lot of fun again, and exploring a new corner of the MCU where people just live in a world where superheroes exist. So then, what does your everyday life? That's what She-Hulk did a really good job about. It's showing what does a normal day look like for superhero adjacent characters, where maybe you don't have powers, but you're the acting coach for a superhero, or like you're the coworker of a lawyer that's a superhero. So again, it's a way to kind of establish the world a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always fun to explore, the superhero who doesn't want to, but has to in a sense.
Yeah.
Where it's I have these powers. I have other dreams and ambitions. It just so happens I have superpowers.
Yeah.
And that aspect of it, I think is going to be super fun. Obviously, Wonder Man being a founding member of the West Coast Avengers, all roads to me are leading to West Coast Avengers and then Young Avengers. We just got to see it in Agatha with Billy setting out to go find Tommy. They're going to have to find their dad at some point. who's White Vision. White Vision went off to find himself and figure out like who is he now in this post-life world from Thanos killing his original body. And so he probably went west. Wonder Man's there. She-Hulk's there. Hawkeye might have went there. And then Billy and Tommy might be there. So there's so many things where I feel like the road is taking us to the West Coast Avengers, which is awesome. I feel like we've gotten a lot of East Coast things. We've gotten the New York stand from the original Avengers movie. Infinity War was kind of there, and then Wakanda. And then Endgame was pretty much there in upstate New York. So yeah, let's see what life is like on the West Coast now that superheroes are running around.
Real quick, yes, we are live on YouTube as well. So I know if you paid for premium like me, you could like listen to us with your phone shut off. Thank God for that premium. That's like, I will never cancel YouTube premium. It's gold to me. So yeah, if you want to watch. Also,
thank you for even wanting to listen to us with your phone off. So that's nice.
All right. Distance Nerding says they are setting up Young Avengers, but just teases. They're still gonna have to do some work to bring them together cohesively. That's the key, cohesively, and not feel slapped together. Because I think there is a kind of thing where it's like, well, we're kind of lacking an Avengers team right now, so let's just kind of make this work. I think Children's Crusade is a really good way to kind of introduce the two teams separately and let them work together a little bit, because in the beginning of that, with the whole like, hey, Wiccan's way too powerful moment, that's the beginning of that comic book. You could really push that forward.
But I think they're doing it really good first, and I agree. I think that they have to do it the right way, but like even just showing they did something that we got to see in kind of the original first three phases. You take a hero, you build out their story, you care about them, and then you now connect them with other people. We got Miss Marvel's story. I really liked that show. Not everybody did. I don't necessarily love the middle part of it, but I really enjoyed the beginning with Kamala and her family. And then I really liked the end and how it kind of, you got to see her kind of level up. So I thought all that was great. Then we got Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye series. Then we got Cassie Lang in this new Ant-Man movie. So I think that they're doing it and they're slowly seeding it. You get to see at the end of the Marvels that Miss Marvel is the one that's assembling the team, so to speak. She's got, Fury's iPad. She goes to see Kate. Hey, I heard Ant-Man's got a daughter. That's happening. We now have seen that Billy has realized who he is. He's kind of stepped into his own, and his new mission is to find his brother. Well, along that path, he can run into any number of other Young Avengers. I think that they've been doing a really good job of setting this up. And then I think it will be a natural transition to finding the other members of the team. And, since there is no Avengers team, which has kind of been a letdown, I think, for us in these phases 4 and 5, but maybe the Young Avengers will step in and actually be that cohesive team till we get the final Avengers, which also really ties into how the comics went, because the Avengers were gone. So I think I don't know. I think they're doing a good job with it.
The Thunderbolts, I believe it was Kevin Feige that said Thunderbolts is going to lead into the new Avengers as well. Because the asterisks there, people are like, oh, that's Dark Avengers or whatever. But there's something that happens in Thunderbolts, probably the realization that, hey, we need a super team still. And maybe that'll lead to Avengers. But yeah, I believe that's kind of the idea as well. So if we have that culminating with Young Avengers and then with whatever's going to be happening in Captain America 4, which is clearly going to be, our Captain America needing a team behind him as well as he fights against Red Hulk and starts to learn to not necessarily trust the government. Shout out Election Day. So we'll see how that goes. I think we're getting this, like, it's a slow build, man. But we're getting to something really cool with all the Avengers teams.
Yeah, definitely. It just makes sense if you look at like the comic basis and like where the universe is at right now. Because the Young Avengers step up in the absence of the regular Avengers. So I think it's there. But you're right. I think Captain America is going to really change a lot in terms of like what we see as the goal for an Avengers team. Yeah. Right. And we see even in the trailers, like the president's asking him, like, you have to assemble a new team. And it becomes even more apparent, again, to your point, as the Red Hulk comes out, he's going to be way outmatched. Exactly. I don't know how they're going to do that. Because, there's no, even with Steve Rogers in the Hulk, there was no chance that he could have stopped him. That's just way outmatched.
And that is what I love, because so many times when we see when do you call the Avengers? When do you call the Justice League? It's when Batman absolutely needs somebody to help save Gotham. It's when, Superman just can't be, or Superman's getting out thought or something like there has to be a reason to bring in the entire team. Red Hulk is a good reason. I mean, he's up there. So I'm sure he'll be able to beat Red Hulk in this movie, but I want it to be barely. And for him to realize, like, I almost lost this one, I need to make sure that the Avengers are actually formed. And I need to make sure that they are what Tony and Cap wanted at first place, Steve Rogers, stuff like that. So
yeah, I'm thinking about it as you were saying that, like, barely beats him. Like, if it's like,
I know
a Red Hulk is like Homelander, and then like Captain
but
America,
we're rooting for Billy Butcher.
Exactly. But like one punch and he was gonna blast a hole through Captain America. I don't know how he even barely beats him. Like, I think he's gonna have to call in help. And I don't think it's a bad thing. It's like, no, he has to figure out on his own. I don't know if he does. I think maybe the team effort is what's Captain America, this new version of Captain America, is his strength. His strength has
always been his strength, by the way. I want to just jump in real quick. Steve Rogers' strength too. Avengers assemble. That's his main catchphrase, really, in my opinion. And that, and America's ass. So yeah, I think his ability to assemble the Avengers is his best ability. And let's see it happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
So that's the Marvel roadmap. I think let's move on to the next thing here. We got 3 new Lego movies in the works, and they're all live action. Okay. And I heard from somebody on in my comments over on TikTok, shout out to the comments over there, that one of them is going to be a Ninjago story. Now that actually has me kind of hyped, because I'm like, okay, so we're going to have just the Ninjago storyline being used in a live action, then that's just a ninja story. And after some of the stuff we got lately, I'm like all on board for more feudal Japan. I know Ninjago's definitely not accurate. It's definitely not Shogun, right. But we can get more of it. What do you want to see out of live action Lego movies?
I don't know if I want to see a live action Lego movie first and foremost. Yeah. I know that it's been kind of contentious, and this is probably not a fair comparison, but this is where my brain's going, is that new Minecraft movie. I'll be honest, like, that doesn't really appeal to me. And I think even for Minecraft players, they're not necessarily hyped for it. So I don't know. I guess I'm more curious on your end. What are you getting from this Minecraft movie and from a live action like Lego? How does this work? Such a
great call. I saw a meme recently that I was just like, that's so us, where it's like a group of friends that join like a live Call of Duty game, and like they're getting smoked, or like, you guys will just want to start a new Minecraft server. Okay, yeah, let's all do that. That's so me. Like, it's just a matter of time before we all jump in on a Minecraft server and play together again. And when I saw this movie, I was like, I have zero interest in this hot garbage, is what I'm seeing. It doesn't look like anybody actually cares about their roles. And I think it's just everybody's wanting to kind of do the Barbie / Super Mario movie thing. They try to capitalize on that stuff just because they've been successes. Doesn't mean you could do it. Not everything's going to be a Detective Pikachu. Nothing. You have to have that kind of creative spark first, then make those. And with this Lego movie, I feel like, again, it's following up on the whole Barbie thing. And sure, Barbie was a hit, but it was such a unique hit. You guys can't replicate that 100%. You guys had something special with the 2014 Lego movie. Return to that. Lego 2 wasn't bad. Batman Lego was fantastic. Return to something like that. Going live action, I think, is missing the point of what Legos can be. The Ninjago thing, I'm going to give it a pass just because I'm like, well, that's just a ninja story and that's going to be fun. I don't know what else you can do with the Lego universe.
Right. Yeah. I don't see how again, I don't really know Ninjago. I've seen the commercials for the toys and all that, but it's like, I don't see how that really applies to like live action in a sense. But yeah, you're right. Like, they've been having so much success with just having like the Lego versions of movies. I didn't watch it. I'll be honest, but
on my list.
It did look interesting. The Star Wars one. Is that what you're going to say?
I'm halfway through that. Actually, I'm thinking of the Pharrell one. Looks so good.
Oh yeah, it does. But like, I mean, yeah, I don't know if I want to watch it though. Like I like Pharrell. I like what he stands for. I like his like creative outlook on the world and like business. But it's like it didn't even compel me enough to like go watch it.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know. Even the Star Wars one, the Star Wars thing looked super cool. It was like the what if for Star Wars in a sense. Did you watch that?
That was fun. I liked that. Yeah.
You did? Okay. So I even get, it's just like, I don't know, for some reason it feels too kiddish for me sometimes that it takes me a while to like, I have to really be doing nothing.
That brings us back to chat. We're getting too old, yo. I love the yo, which is very much as old. This isn't for us. And that's totally, and it reminds me, he says it reminds me of the Star Wars entry points. That was my argument for the Mario movie when that was coming out. Like, give it a chance, guys. And even if you don't like it, that's fine. The next generation of Mario fans, this is where they're jumping in. So if we bash it super hard, it reminds me of like when we were all liking the prequel, but we didn't actually tell each other we liked the prequel because everybody older than us said they sucked.
Right.
But yeah, the Mario movie is going to be someone's fandom. So let's all support it so that Mario can exist into the future. And that's a really good point. Maybe these Lego movies aren't for us, but for somebody, they are it. They are the thing that's going to get them to Lego.
For sure.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, no, I definitely think they are for somebody. And you were right. Like even the original Lego movies you got were really great. It just, I don't think it's for me. I think I've aged out. And I also think that, if I had kids, it'd be a different story. But I don't think I'm going to bash it either. I mean, I was so excited. Like what sold me on the Mario movie was just from the trailer.
Yeah.
Once I kind of heard Chris Pratt do the Mario voice, which was, I think that was the biggest fear I had, was like, can he really get the Mario voice down? And then after you see how they weaved it into the story where it was kind of the stereotypical voice he would do for the commercials and stuff, I was like, nice. That's such a good spin on on the accent and all that stuff. So I think this will definitely be for somebody's cup of tea. I just think you're right, where I'm at right now, it's like, they're going to have to do something special to really bring me in.
This reflects back to an interview I did with the team that does the Golden Trailer Awards down in Hollywood. And we talked about the evolution of trailers in the last 20 years because they have evolved quite a bit. And that's the thing is
Great interview.
Thank you. What information do you deliver in that 2 minutes you have? And it feels like Minecraft might have not delivered the right thing. The Mario thing messed up in its delivery too because it didn't explain to us why that voice is going to be okay. And I wonder if they had changed. I mean, the Mario movie did fantastic, but if they had changed the messaging and kind of led with that, like, okay, I'm done with that voice for the ad. Let me go back to my regular voice. I wonder if that would have landed a little better for us.
You're right. It would have been an easier pill to swallow at the start. You're right. Like the first trailer was just hype. It was just like, look at this world we're creating, all that. But that last trailer was fire. It was like, you're going to go on a crazy adventure. You're going to see all the Nintendo characters You're going to like start here and here. That last trailer, and it ends with him kind of jumping in the go-kart. And then with the woohoo, that killed it. That last trailer was fire. So I think, you're right. Like they could have changed the strategy, but I think the trailers for that movie did a solid job because that opening weekend, I was like, I got to go watch this. Like, I'm a Nintendo fan. I'm a Mario fan. Like, I got to see what this is about. And so happily surprised that they made this very unique way of looking at the Mario universe and bringing Mario and Luigi in and then giving us so much fan service, but in a satisfying story. It was, I think they did a really good job on the marketing for that movie.
The number of times I've like nudged Jonathan or Squeaks be like, hey, that's from Mario 64, the way he's spinning Bowser. Oh, hey, that's, Jumpman and stuff.
Luigi's Mansion.
Yes, this is learning. Yes, Hollywood is learning, telling good stories with layered. Again, we're going back to Shogun, going back to The Bear. We're in a time. And then animation too, like animation right now, we all reflect on how good 90s animation was. Think about the next generation that's going to be looking back at Invincible and X-Men 97 and the Batman Caped Crusader series that came out that was very good and kind of underhyped, to be honest with you.
Good.
Yeah. It was really good.
I agree with that. Vox Machina. I mean, that's adult animation, I guess. But
I know my kids would watch it. I wouldn't care. I'd be like, hey, look, you got to sit down and watch the good stuff,
I might wait a few years for that, but man, it's a great time. I think animation's killing it. I went, recently, I went to see Across the Spider-Verse and they had a live orchestra and they're doing like this in select theaters, but it was in like a full like Broadway theater, not in like a movie theater. It was such an incredible experience and it completely changed how I looked at that movie. I was very critical on it, when it first came out and stuff and didn't really quite get it. And this third time it like hit me at such a different emotional level. I don't know if it was with the orchestra or just I could hear all the dialogue a lot better, but I'm just thinking like, these kids are getting wonderful stories. And one of my favorite movies all year has to be The Wild Robot. Like that movie just like hits me It's such a core. Like I don't have kids, but like when I have kids one day, it's just gonna wreck me. Like I can never watch that movie again. So it's been such a good year for animation, and it's just across the board for kids, for adults, for families. I think they're just nailing it.
I like the idea too of going to kind of I want to say classier theater to watch things. We have something called Crest Theater here in Sacramento that I've been to for live podcasts, actually. Yeah, a couple of them.
Oh,
and but they every so often do like movie shows, and I missed one. They had Beetlejuice on there recently, like the first Beetlejuice. I'm like, I need to do that. And it's like every time I'm in that theater, I'm just looking around at the architecture, like the designs on the walls. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous theater, and it feels like an older part of Sacramento that's still there on a K Street. It's the street you want to hang out on. But it's cool to kind of have that movie experience there. It elevates it a little bit in a way.
Oh, totally. They had a big screen, and then they have a DJ scratching too. And just like with so cool. And then like these like massive drums that somebody was just like, it was just like I don't know. It really just hit different. If you have the chance to see a movie with a live orchestra, I cannot recommend it enough. It is just such a fun, cool experience. We also got to see, there's like this big amphitheater outside here in San Diego. Why am I blanking on the name? This is what happens to me every week though. But
no so editing cool. This time.
I know. Right. But we got to see Return of the Jedi. And man, that was Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, good. Even better.
Yeah, but it was phenomenal, man. This is so if you can see a movie with a live orchestra, one of these classics, absolutely do it.
Yeah. Let's go ahead to our next thing here. Another Godzilla movie is confirmed. This is the Toho version of Godzilla, and they're bringing back Takashi for this, who did Godzilla -1. I mean, man, I keep preaching how good Godzilla -1 is. Jonathan, if you're watching this, watch it, man. I keep pushing for him to watch it because he hasn't seen it yet. And I think it brings back, obviously it brings back the vibes of the old ones. It's the point, the 1954 release of the first movie. But there's something to it where it's like, it's the civilians of Japan's perspective. Like we care about the people a lot more in this. And I think there's nothing wrong with having two different versions of Godzilla movies. Sometimes you watch fireworks, sometimes you want a great book. And the other one I think is so much about the actual Godzilla himself. But this one here, Godzilla -1, is so much about the characters, their survival, the creativity behind how they're going to defeat Godzilla and stuff like that. It's just so fun. A sequel out of it, though. What do you want to see out of a sequel?
Yeah, I'm surprised that. I shouldn't be surprised that they're doing a sequel because it was a hit, and it's my favorite Godzilla movie by far. I'm not a massive Godzilla fan, but it's like, how could you not like Godzilla? You know what I mean? And just the idea of a giant monster coming into the city and nothing can stop him. I love that aspect. I think that they continue to show how horrible and horrifying it would be to actually have this monster in there. Something that I feel like it's done better than. I think the only thing that's done a big monster terrorizing city better for me would be what's the found footage movie we saw?
Oh yeah, Cloverfield. Yeah, that did a good job.
Yeah, you're afraid for the people. Like you're like, where do you go? Everybody's lost. Your house, you can't hide out in there. Like, just from a person's perspective in that city, it's terrifying. And you're right, they nailed it in the Godzilla -1. But I don't know. As long as they can keep that vibe, I think you have to start bringing in some other lore though. That maybe there is other monsters out there that could be terrorizing. We've kind of seen it in like the Monarch saga going on too. In that universe. Yeah. And I thought that was super boring. Sorry, everybody. I tried to get through that show. I thought it was boring. Did you watch it?
I couldn't get into it. There's the mark on the side. I don't want to give too many spoilers, guys, but there's a mark on the side that's kind of hinting at an old school Godzilla story, if I remember correctly, that I think is going to be kind of where we see number 2 go.
Okay. I dig that. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, do you also bring back the same characters? Because that story was really great, but it's like he kind of got over his trauma. He kind of figured it out, and he's got a new family and everything. I don't know if you do the same thing again, or if you go somewhere else in Japan, or I don't know.
If they expand on the mark, and so you have to use her again, so you'll have to use the family again. And going past the trauma, or like dealing with trauma, is a very big part of the early Godzilla movies, and seeing the ramifications of the nuclear war, or the nuclear bomb, I should say. That being said, there is definitely still stuff to be said about community building, about support systems. Like they could definitely tap into other major themes, like a Pixar movie. Just pick a big theme and go for it. And so, yeah, we could definitely see them expand in that direction. It's funny when you're saying like, oh yeah, we haven't seen. I immediately went back to the monster side of things and like Pacific Rim. They did a great job.
Oh yeah.
But it's like not really for the people. They did a great job because the robots are awesome.
Right. Yeah. Because you see all these buildings get destroyed, and how many thousands of people are dying in that moment, but you never get the weight of it. You never feel like people are screwed. Just like, damn, they're destroying a lot of shit.
It's got a sword now.
Yeah. Exactly. Like if you combine those two things in a way that really feels grounded, like that would be, I think, that would be the ultimate kaiju mech movie. But I don't feel like they've quite hit the nail on the head with that. But this movie, just from a terrifying standpoint, and feeling for the people that are just in the cities, dang, this movie crushed it.
It did. Looking back at a movie that did not crush it, and I loved it as a kid, but I think we should rewatch it sometime for Challenge Accepted. Godzilla from 1998. Did you ever watch that when you were a kid?
With Bryan Cranston?
No. Oh no, that's like 2016. I'm talking with Ferris Bueller. God, I can't remember his actual name. Nobody does.
Matthew Broderick.
Thank you. Do you remember that one?
Sort of, but not really. I don't remember the story. Like I remember watching it, but I mean, I have watched it, but I'm
challenging you to see that at some point, because today everybody says it's bad, and everybody said it was bad then too. Let me correct myself. But as a kid, when you're watching it as a kid, you're like, it's a big T-Rex, and I just watched Jurassic Park, so I'm all T-Rexified right now. And they definitely changed the design on it. It's all in the rain because the CGI was as awful as possible, so they had to hide as much as possible. It had eggs that basically were raptors, so it was like really leaning on the Jurassic Park vibe. Yeah.
Okay, I do remember the eggs part and everything. I remember liking that one too. We'll have to. I'm down to go down that road. I remember.
Oh, what's happening?
Like even as a kid, like digging it, but not thinking it was a great movie.
Yeah. I think at the time it was critically panned or whatever, but I remember like getting the lunchbox for it. They had the big eye on it. Being a big fan. Nice. Our next topic is going to be Game of Thrones. We're getting a movie for Game of Thrones. It's actually going to be released in theaters, and there are multiple eras they can cover. I think out of the two of us, I'm the one that's going to know a little bit more about this topic.
Yeah.
So if you have any questions, pop it up. But I'm going to go over the three eras. I hope one of these three that they'll cover.
Okay.
First off is the Long Night. Are you familiar with the Long Night at all in Westeros?
Mm-mm. It's not like the Tall Night. That's a different situation.
No,
right?
Night with an N-I. It's actual nighttime.
Okay.
Right. So the Long Night essentially is kind of you're setting up the prequel to the White Walker, the Night's King, and we could show like the Children of Men teaming up and with the First Men to create a way to fight back or whatever. And I think it would be really good prequel to Game of Thrones and showing the zombie side of things. I say zombies for layman terms, but it could be a really fun way to tap into that world. And it's just all North, and that's just a vibe I think we lose with the House of the Dragons. We don't get a lot of Stark stuff. And this would be all Stark and wildlings, and what we don't get in House of the Dragons, we get from this. So it would be really nice to kind of see that too.
That's pretty sweet. Yeah. I'm on board. Cause how does it also show like the rest of the world forgets about this threat? That's the other thing too. It's like, they obviously knew it in House and Dragon, but how does it like get so separated by the time Game of Thrones happens that people forget that threat is still impending, but they don't believe it anymore. That's interesting. Mostly time is what happens, but also there's just like so many other things that happen. There's this guy that's eating people in one story in the Night's Watch. Like the Night's Watch becomes like its own thing so much. People try to there's times where people have like taken over the Night's Watch and tried to make it its own kingdom. So yeah, like the Night's Watch itself could be its own series as well, just like kind of going through its history. Wow. Then I think the next movie idea would be Aegon's Conquest. Now we're getting an Aegon's Conquest series, but what if we got a movie that's the prequel to the series? So you watch the movie and it leads to like wars about to start, and then or like the next level of the wars about to start, and that's the conquest over all of Westeros. But before then, we could have Aegon and his two sisters fighting the King's Landing area little lords. And so it'd be a very small battle and bringing it forward and finally finding a spot where Dragonstone could breach into Westeros. And then from there, like we're left off with them conquering and founding, boom, this is where King's Landing will be.
And then like the next phase, like, okay, time to take over Westeros. And then that's what we get the series for this. Would that be something you'd want to watch? It's all 300 years, by the way, before Game of Thrones. So that's where that took place.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds cool, especially if they lead it into like a new season of a show. It sounds like it would make a ton of sense and you can kind of interweave it. There's something else that's doing that recently too. Oh, Dune. Dune is like movies. Then they're gonna have series. Then they're gonna have a movie. They're gonna have series. Yeah, they love Dune Prophecy. So I'm on board with that. It's like I'm never gonna say no to more Game of Thrones. You know, it's always
my questioning of this might be that it might feel a little too close to House of the Dragon. It might feel like it because there's going to be infighting, of course, but there's just going to be basically like more dragons, more Targaryens, and even with Aegon's Conquest, which I think is the superior. It's a superior story over House of the Dragons storyline, the Dance of the Dragons, in my opinion, because it's a lot more straightforward and it's just cool fighting. And I wonder if even that's going to be too similar to House of the Dragon. People are going to have dragon fatigue. We hear about hero fatigue. Get ready for dragon fatigue, guys. Talk to your doctor if you're experiencing dragon fatigue.
There you go. Incest fatigue as well.
Oh God, yeah. So that might be something that happens, but it does have a very cool trio. And then the three dragons, we have Belleron, Meraxes, and then we have Vhagar. We already know Vhagar from House of the Dragon. We're going to see him as a young kid. Her as a young kid.
Young buck.
Yeah. All right. Balerion, by the way, is bigger than Vhagar is now. Like, that's how big that dude is. He's huge. Oh, he's so cool.
Wow.
All right. My number one pick and my last option for a story to go with here is Robert's Rebellion. So for those who are unfamiliar or don't remember, really, Robert Baratheon, the fat guy from Game of Thrones, the first couple seasons, right? And he, Ned Stark, Jon Aerys, they band together to overthrow the Targaryens and be put in charge. So that's why Daenerys and her brother were on the other side. So we could have a movie about them banding together and taking over. In that process, they kill probably the ideal Targaryen, which you find out actually deeper on that he was actually planning on overthrowing his father because his father was Mad King Aerys. He was a lunatic.
Right.
So they end up killing Rhaegar Targaryen, which is the most, outside of Aegon the Conqueror, was like the most ideal Targaryen ever. And they end up killing him. And then we learn through Game of Thrones, spoiler I guess for this, that was Jon Snow's dad. And he impregnated Ned Stark's sister. And when Ned Stark finds his sister during this war, she says, promise me you'll take care of him because he's a Targaryen. He should be killed immediately. You know, Jon Snow. Right. But he promised his sister, and Ned Stark's all about honor. And so he promised his sister. So he takes her, says it's his bastard, you know, hurting his actual honor in doing that by saying he had a bastard in the first place and taking him in and protecting him. I think Robert's Rebellion would be amazing. It's a little bit too small for a series, but it's such an incredible story and it's characters we already know. Robert, back in the day, we all know him as the Fat King. Back in the day, he was beefy, strong, had gigantic antlers on his helmet, and wielded a massive two-handed mace that's just kept in a case in the books in Game of Thrones. But back in the day, he wore this. He had a big two-handed mace that was like, you would see him coming. And Gendry, which we remember from the series, his son wields that mace now. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Dude, that sounds epic. Okay, I think I like that option the most because you're right. It like is the origin to some of these characters we already know, and we get to see the fall of the Targaryens before Game of Thrones. Because you're right. It's like, wait, how did it go from they have all the dragons, they're killing it, but then you see that they're probably going to implode from the inside out as as like the last season shows. But also it's like, yeah, but they're still at the top and they still have dragons. So how do they completely lose the entire Iron Throne? That would be cool to see that.
Yeah, it's also no dragons, so you have that dragon fatigue problem. It's gone. It's just a good medieval story. A lot of political intrigue, a lot of military strategy going on. It's really good. And Ned Stark's family's there. Catelyn Stark, a young Catelyn Stark, who's just like she's River Lord's daughter. Getting used to the North, you kind of get that Sansa vibe from her. Getting used to the frigid North and finding new identity with the Starks and seeing that that's actually her people now. I think it's for sure rightful stories, and it's actually one that's not actually written out. The story of Robert's Rebellion is all told in remembrance through Game of Thrones, so it doesn't have its own story yet. This is where you can get it.
Totally, yeah. Plus, you can add in a love story. Like, how did Ned and the mom, I forget, you just said her name, but
Catelyn Stark,
like Catelyn, yeah. How did they fall in love? Because they're actually one of like the best couples in the whole series, as far as as I know, like they actually really do love and care about each other, and they back each other up, and they're, you know, a good unit. So that would be a nice way to kind of bring in, you know, do a little something different in it.
Yeah.
I think that'd be sweet. Yeah.
One of the difficult parts about this story, about Catelyn and Ned, is that he brought home a bastard. And so the entire time she talks about how, like, it's common that lords have bastard sons when they're off at war, like they're sleeping around, whatever.
Right.
But I live with the reminder every day, and I have to treat him like a fellow son. And so she belittles Jon Snow so much. And then that makes the strength between Jon and like Rob, his brother, who is her natural son, really unique, because it's like, hey, don't listen to my mom, man. He literally says that at one point in the beginning, like, don't listen to my mom. We love you. You're Stark. And his wolf, being the white albino misfit wolf, was a symbol of, like, all the other wolves were normal looking dire wolves. His was Ghost, the white albino one. They're like, oh, you could take that one. And so, and it was like one of the last living wolves. Nymeria technically is the last living wolf too, but you don't see her anymore. Obviously for Game of Thrones, I could just keep talking. So let's go to the next thing. But yeah.
No, it's awesome. I appreciate all your knowledge of it, and tying it back to the original Game of Thrones, I don't think could be a bad thing. And it's just awesome. The Starks had so much more lore that I don't feel like was expanded upon enough. You know, they could have went so much deeper with that. So yeah, that's great.
All right, next we're going to be doing a review for Agatha All Along. For you folks that like hang out with Geek Freaks, you probably listen to Challenge Accepted. So you've heard me and Thomas break down every single episode on Challenge Accepted. So if you want to relive the Witch's Road, join us over there. I actually put together a playlist. So you can just press play on the playlist. It's about 3.5 hours long. And you're just going to listen to us talking about Agatha all along from week to week. You'll hear us go from one random theory to another random theory until finally we know the facts. It's kind of fun to listen to all the way through. So check that out over on Challenge Accepted. But for now, let's go ahead and dig into our review for it. Now, again, we've talked about it a lot. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to draw. I have 100 different questions to help. This is the Tupperware topics we used to use back in the old Top 5 days, guys. I have 100 different questions to help us review this show. We're going to take turns going back and forth with this. Are you ready for this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love this random question thing. Fire away.
I'm going through right now. Sound effects. You guys can hear it. There we go. Drawing one out for you right now. All right. For Agatha All Along, did any characters feel unnecessary to the story?
Ooh, that's a good question. No. I don't think they did. I think everybody served their purpose. I don't think it was wasted by any means. I was like, who's probably the most useless character? And I was like, is William Kaplan's parents? But no, they kind of show who he comes from, and that he had this completely different life before he passed away, and then Billy took over his body. So yeah, no, I think they did a fantastic job. And then I think that's just credence to the writing. Like everything felt purposeful. What about you? Can you think of anybody that thought?
I was thinking Mrs. Hart at first, but I'm like, I really loved her in the show.
I loved her too.
So I don't want to lose her either. I don't think anybody was really wasted. It was pretty tight. Right. I think the budget forced them to do that. And it's something that Marvel is going to take note of in the future, to not fill us with fluff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'll start with the next one here. Which relationships were the most compelling? Easily Agatha and Rio. I was invested in those two and wanted to know what was up. And when we see that the prologue episode, the final episode, and we kind of get this regretful Rio who has to eventually take, by the way, spoiler alert for everything, but eventually has to take Nicholas Scratch. Man, it's just like, it sucks. And when you rewatch it, you're like, she references it a few times, and it just really hampers their relationship. And these two are like two flames. They're attracted to each other, but they're too hot. They burn each other. Right. It's a really cool combo.
Yeah. I think that's a great shout out. I'm, probably going to go with Billy and Agatha.
Yeah.
Because it starts off in this really funny way, and you're like, this goth kid just wants to learn magic. He doesn't really know anything. And then they do a good job of kind of leading you down this path of like, maybe he's Nicholas Scratch. They really throw some Easter eggs in there. Yeah, that makes you, you don't fully turn off the road, but you're kind of at this fork, and you're like, do I go right or left? Like the maps says, and GPS says left, but should I go right? Will it be faster? Is this the better way to do it? And I think that's really, again, really well done. I love that relationship. And then how he all of a sudden doesn't trust her anymore, and how he's like, no, I'm going to do this without you. I never needed you, to where I still don't think you deserve to die. I still want to save you. All of that is just like really wonderful. And it's this ever winding, literally windy road, if you will. It's so good. They have a really good relationship in that. I love it.
I thought he was Nicholas Scratch for a while there, especially with the Salem 7 popping up. Like, I thought that was a really good kind of hint to him coming up, but I think it was more of a red herring in the end. Because I mean, like they died kind of quickly, probably quicker than they should have. Looking back at it, like they should have been more of a threat. But yeah,
they got 7 episodes.
That's true. Yeah, they were kind of at just haunting, and then by the time they went down, Rio was the problem. So they did change the bad guy out. Nothing as bad as Beetlejuice when that thing ended, and I was like, oh wow, they just totally lied to us. So I like that movie. It's a fun movie, but man, that bad guy was not a bad guy. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think it was tight, and there were so many other wonderful relationships that they had spark in here too. You know, like Lilia and Jennifer and Agatha, Alice, and like really kind of everybody, even Alice and the teen, and her figuring out what her whole situation was and how she was going to move forward. All of it was really good, but I think we nailed it on the 2 most impactful ones.
Yeah. All right. Your next one is, what scene or line stuck with you the most after watching?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I mean, I keep singing the song.
Yeah, the song is definitely the biggest one in my mind. There was little things, and I don't know them verbatim, but
oh, good question. We'll get to you in a second, Ape. Actually, do you mind if I jump in real quick on this? Ape brings up a really good question. But the Salem 7 wasn't actually real, right? Since Billy made them up. No, they are real because they predate Billy making the Witch's Road. We see them before the road is actually made. And if I'm not mistaken, actress-wise, they were the first coven that Agatha killed when she walked up to them after Billy was born, or I'm sorry, after Nicholas was born. I believe that's the same actresses. I'm not sure on that, but yeah, Salem 7 will predate Billy making up the road.
Right. Yeah, that was my impression too, that they were real. But it is funny that it does come into question. I think it's a very fair question, like, were they real or not? Because, you know, was it also something that he was creating in order to like have this antagonist in the road, so to speak? But yeah, my impression was that they were real, and it's funny that it was told from Jennifer's perspective, that like, oh, they're a hive mind, or I guess it was like Lilia and Jennifer kind of comboing, but like it was her original coven that she like betrayed, and they were never able to let it go, so like their magic kind of kept them alive to hunt her down. I still believe that they were real, but it's a good question though.
It's a good question. 8-Bit follows it up with another really good point. Couldn't Billy have accidentally made them as a way to push them into the basement, as kind of like needing something to get them to go on the road? I'm gonna ask that on distance nerding so I can sound smart. I like that. Thank you very much. That's a good one.
That is a fantastic question though, 8-Bit. It is. And you're right. He totally could have made it, but even though the road wasn't technically real before he made it, it still was real in the sense that he did create this thing.
That's something like, so big on TikTok. People are debating that back and forth. The road is real because he made it real. Like so many people were like, oh, the road was never real. It was like a dream. Absolutely not that. It's real. And then they're always like, people are always like, well, Jen still thinks the road is real. That's crazy. Like, no, the road was real for Jen. It literally gave her what she wanted. It gave her everything. So it's just funny how that's, out there.
It's more of a timing question. Was it like real before he created it at the start of the show? No, it wasn't. But after he did create it, it was then real. So it's not if it was or if it wasn't. It was just, when did it become real? And so like I think that's the bigger question to it. But yeah, I like that maybe he could have created them too. But it also felt like Agatha thought this could have been a thing too that was going to be hunting her down before, even though she knew that the road wasn't real before. She probably thought, my past is going to come. Yeah, you can't. But I do think that they were real in a sense, and they had some type of tie from her past. He could have created them too, but either way, I think they were real.
Random side question. Is this the biggest surprise in Marvel to you? Like, to me, I went into Agatha thinking like, this is going to just be whatever. I'm not going to be super excited about this. I freaking loved that show. And I'm looking back, the only other thing that like threw me for that big of a loop has to be Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Going into that being like, I don't know any of these characters. So like, whatever, we'll see. And then walking out like, I got to watch that again. You know?
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I think it is the biggest surprise for me in phases 4 and 5. No, that's not true. WandaVision first. Because I didn't think there was any way I could be compelled to see Wanda and Vision just living a normal life in different sitcoms. And I think that one first, like WandaVision walked so Agatha could run. But do I like Agatha as a show better? Yeah, I do. I think I enjoy it a lot more. But again, you don't get Agatha without getting WandaVision. So I think it's a chicken or the egg situation for me.
Yeah.
If I think through phases 1 through 3, I think the reason why the MCU became as amazing as it was because it was all kind of a surprise. The Avengers shouldn't have worked. Iron Man shouldn't have worked. Then you get Thor Ragnarok. Then you get Infinity War and Endgame. And
the MCU as a whole, like Kevin Feige's big master plan, which that MCU book is a must read, guys, if you haven't read that yet.
Yeah, it's a fantastic book. I kind of wish I got more things out of it that I wasn't surprised for, but I'm sure a lot of people, didn't know all these things, but it was, I don't know. So no, it wasn't like that big a surprise for me in a way because we got WandaVision and because that was successful. Yeah. Now, did it surprise me how much I enjoyed it and really just was amazed by the writing? Yes, absolutely.
Jack Schaefer, I'm following her career no matter where she goes.
Dude, bring her back for anything in Marvel.
I want to return back to the question we had pulled for you. What scene or line stuck with you the most after watching?
Oh, yeah. I think there was things about, that's tough. You're right. There's so many little moments and I can't remember the verbiage, but like for different characters, different times. So for example, like Alice in her trial, having to confront her trauma with what happened to her mom and like finally break through. There was different things she said in it and like her emotions and singing the Witch's Road. I thought that was incredible. Things that even happened in the Beach House episode. And there's just, I don't know, like the way they kind of interweaved things so that you didn't know. But is there a line like WandaVision where what is grief if not love persevering? Mm-hmm. Not really. I can't think of one like that off the top of my head, but there was just so much just emotion and pathos throughout this thing that there were so many good lines. For me, it's hard to narrow it down to like one.
This is nerding. I've got an entire playlist of trap remixes you got to get in on, man. That's my Pokemon trap remix playlist is a banger. 8-Bit, great point. They seem like they are starting to take power levels more seriously as they get closer to X-Men. That is an excellent point because in X-Men it's needed.
Yeah. You don't think they did that in Secret Invasion? What?
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Of course. Yeah. For sure.
I will be sharing that as a point. That's good. Okay. Let's go to, by the way, for me, it's Tower Reverse. That was the scene to me that was like, this is going to live in my mind forever. That was such a good moment.
For sure. Yeah. That's true. They're iconic scenes, but yeah, you're right. I like it. What line would you pull out from that part though? It's like it's like everything, right? It's like
that's totally fair. Yeah, that's totally fair. But to me, it was just the way there was like they were building up these cards the whole time and knowing that tarot cards because I got into tarot cards for like a hot second. I got it at a yard sale and was like, oh look at me, I'm cool. Anyways, high school cool, guys. Though. But that whole like reverse thing, like it meaning the opposite or whatever, and then like the tower reverse, it was just. I don't know. To me, it would just hit hard. It was just so cool. That whole episode, though, you're right. It was actually together really cool. Next question out of the Tupperware of questions we got for you. I'll start this one off. How well did the show balance its multiple storylines? Well, it did a pretty good job in the fact that it felt like it was one storyline with a bunch of subplots that were so directly feeding into the main plot that they didn't feel like they were pulled away in any way. Example, Alice trying to find her mom. That's a subplot, sure. But her becoming that protection witch and coming to terms with this curse on the family. It really did feel like that was all empowering this journey down the road, that there was no subplot to it. I think the other thing I think the most aside subplot there might have been was Agatha and Rio. But again, that even balanced out at the end too. So I think it did a really good job of kind of keeping things so focused on just progressing down the road, both physically and storyline wise, which I think is kind of the benefit to the show. It's like my favorite Star Trek, of course, is Star Trek Voyager. It's because they have to get from Delta Quadrant to Earth. So no matter what's happening, the ship has to point in that direction. And in this case, it was like, yeah, no matter what happens in this episode, we know we have to progress down this road. And that was a really good way of telling a story.
Yeah. I think this show absolutely nailed it on funneling all the subplots into the main plot.
Yeah.
Because if you remember when we were talking about the first couple episodes, we're like, okay, where is this going? And like, how's the Witch's Road going to form? And like, okay, we have all these different characters we're just meeting for the first time. How are their stories going to even matter to this? And then they do at every point. We start seeing that Jennifer was bound by something in her past and it loses her magic. And this is possibly a way for her to get it back. Lilia, she just seems crazy. Like, you're like, okay, yeah, sure, you're predicting things and you're a nutbag. Turns out one of the best episodes of the entire series. And it's so impactful. And not only, I've already said this in clips online, but it like, she gets some resolution, but it also then allows Agatha and Billy to move forward on their path down the road. Mm-hmm. So that kind of stuff is just absolutely tremendous. It makes you care about these other characters. There's these subplots, but they get a final conclusion to their stories. And then it still progresses like the two main characters we've realized with, again, Billy and Agatha, but it pushes them to the final place where now they've grown, they've evolved, they've kind of had to deal with their trauma. And now they're on a new path forward for the next chapter. I think it nailed it. And we've seen a lot of different shows this year. We've seen a lot of different movies, a lot of, with Venom, for example, none of those subplots pay off to me. None of them pay off. Even the final story, like what's the payoff for the trilogy? Nothing. And you had 3 movies to figure this out. It's just crazy. This is one series with characters we kind of didn't really know, and they all make them impactful and they all make it satisfying. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I
loved it too. I want to just throw out real quick on the Venom thing. My review for that was pretty rough, but it got saved by that third act. I think the third act of the Venom 3 movie is solid. I'll say that much. Look at you. That
was like the part I hated the most. It felt like it made no sense, but I mean, I love Tom Hardy. I'm just like, that's the best they could come up with. Like, he didn't learn anything. He didn't even grow. He didn't gain anything from that. He lost Venom and then was like, there's some things I could have had in my life that I maybe wanted, but I didn't get. And then maybe some way down the line, I will want them and then I'll eventually get them. But I'm in New York.
Yeah.
He didn't learn anything.
He didn't learn anything. You're so right. It was just really cool to see all the different symbiote suits being like Power Rangers.
Those were cool.
Real quick, jumping over to the really good point here. All the details in the show that people keep pulling are crazy. Poor Thomas, he gets all kinds of DMs on TikTok from me about like, did you see this? Did you notice this? And one of them that he brings up, which actually I just saw a TikTok on this like yesterday. Jen's necklace looks like it's chaining her down like she's bound. And I was like, never thought about that. So that is such a great point.
Dude, this also about Jen, right? She, everybody's color or their power is a different color. At the end, when she finally unbounds herself, her power glows pink. If you look at what she's wearing for most of the show, not only does it have her pink rhinestone in there, but there's pink dresses. There's all kind of pink.
Didn't even notice that.
Kind of showing she's always wanted to bring out her own magic and she hasn't been able to. So yes, she's able to break her own chains and then finally lets out her power. It's pretty cool. Really sharp detailing.
I'm so ready for Jen to pop up on more things. Here's the next one out of the... Oh, she definitely will. Tupperware, with the Ghost Riders and whatnot, she could do all kinds of things. Was there a theme or a message that came across strongly in the show?
Yeah. I really liked what Billy was going through, right? I mean, he's this amazing character from the comics, but also showing like, has he's hiding himself on 2 levels. One, he's not William Kaplan, and 2, he is gay, and the other thing is like, and he also has these abilities. So 3 levels maybe. And that,
Jewish and anxiety, by the way. I want to throw in those 2 things as well. Like there's for sure. Billy Kaplan is so complicated in the fact that like, not complicated. There's so many people who identify different aspects with him that they really needed to land this, and I think they did. Sorry, go ahead.
No, absolutely. It looked like that wasn't as big of a hurdle for him to climb. Like the Jewish side of things, I mean, was celebrated with his bar mitzvah, and it didn't ever seem like it was that big of an issue, but also showing like a family that accepts him in some ways that he wouldn't be accepted. And eventually to be accepted for who he truly is and his powers with his boyfriend. And I don't know what his parents knows about his powers. I mean, he kind of just discovers it, but like they still love him. They accept him, and seeing this level of acceptance and just meeting people where they're at. I loved that perspective. He's just like a wonderful character that I want to see win. Like I want to keep seeing him overcome things. And I think he will continually be a useful part of the team. I mean, he's definitely one of the more powerful young Avengers, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. I just thought they handled all these really delicate stories super well. And it just was done in a really, fantastic way. I thought he was awesome. Yeah.
Just real quick response in chat. We have Geek Freaks, obviously, but we also have Challenge Accepted that just reviews TV shows and movies. And we review every episode of like Agatha Long, for example. So yes, if you want to watch one of these shows with us, I'll tap you for one of the episodes coming up. Actually, we'll do Daredevil. Daredevil will have you join us for one of those, and you'll help us dissect every single thing we're seeing on that as well.
We've done
the DMs.
Every show too.
What's that?
We've done so many other shows too. We've done The Last of Us. We've done The Acolyte. We did. I'm trying to think of all the other shows we've kind of.
Ahsoka, The Last of Us. Yeah.
Avatar: The Last Airbender. Every episode.
That was brutal. Oh my god, we did every episode of that in one weekend. So eight episodes basically we recorded in one week, and then I had Geek Freaks and stuff to record too.
Yeah, we had normal life things to do on top of it. Yeah, I was fried.
Brutal. All right, here's another one out of the Tupperware here. And I think this is my turn. I think it's my turn. Did the show subvert any genre cliches? I think I went in because the casting for this, I thought, this is going to be a theatrical play. You get Patti LuPone, you're going to do a theatrical play like that. And that right away was like, I'm not a big fan of that. Like when we heard about Joker being a musical, like, we'll see. And no, it's just that they utilize the set so much better than I expected. I've seen now some behind the scenes of them showing the set off to them and how they felt like they were actually there on the Witch's Road. Like everything was so practical effects. And I think that level of practical effects and getting your characters surrounded by their environment, make them feel like they're part of the actual universe, makes it easier for them to play off of it and stuff like that. That's all stuff that I thought were going to be detrimental to the show beforehand. And I see it's actually one of its many strengths is the fact that it felt practical. It felt like they were on stage in a way. And that was all a benefit to me. So it subverted the expectations, the cliche, and the fact that I generally dislike those. And I really liked it. And it actually benefited it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to call out one that's kind of a little bit of a hot button issue, but like, this is literally where I'm at. It's like, you have a bunch of women and you have a gay character. Like, are they going to make this interesting, or like, is this going to relate to me in any way? And I know like there was a lot of people kind of hating on it right when it came out, and that's fair. You can like things, you can hate things for whatever reason you want. But for me, I still found things that spoke to me as like a classic Marvel fan too. I mean, I got an Avengers poster up. You know how much I love Marvel. I've always loved Marvel. Will always root for Marvel Studios. And this just really gave me so much to chew on week in and week out. It gave me so much mystery. It gave me Marvel lore that I wanted to see this side of the universe expanded and really detailed. And also like it's just building things for the future. So, and it's just exciting and it's fun and it's funny. All of it subverted my expectation on so many different levels. And it's not like I wasn't going to give it a fair shot, because I try to give everything a fair shot. But man, the whole dynamic of like the characters and who they're focusing it around subverted my expectation. You could have told me like Patti LuPone would be one of my favorite, and Lilia Calderon would be one of my favorite characters in Marvel's phases 4 through 5. She absolutely is. And they stuck it. Didn't expect it, and she was sick. Like, again, there's so many theories out there too. If she was more of a main character in the Marvel universe, she'd be OP, because it's not like she's like Destiny from X-Men where something could happen or couldn't happen. It's like whatever she sees will happen. That is so powerful. I loved.
And with the Agatha save at the end too, where she knows to duck, shows that she sees beyond her life too. So that's like, man, that's crazy powerful. Yeah.
That's a great call out. Yeah, exactly. So cool.
Chat's making some really good points here. First off, we have, I liked his sexual orientation wasn't a crutch or a hindrance, not a plot point, just a part of his life or part of his character. And then we need to see that more often. That just, and for not just sexual orientation, but everything, like we are a mixed bag of people. Show that mixed bag of people. We're not all Tony Stark. As much as I'd like to pretend like I am in the mirror, it's not the case. I am much more Batman in the mirror, by the way.
I wish I could pretend to have him in my bank account.
Yeah, God, right. And then it proves that low budgets proves that the lower budget's not a problem, basically, and taking risks with writing pays off. The writing, I think, particularly, especially the character writing, making sure that those characters feel real and are fleshed out was very important.
Okay, so I do want to talk about the budget because yes. I think that is a very great call out, but I feel like it's not just a Marvel problem. It's kind of been a Hollywood problem to use the budget as a crutch, not as a tool, right? I've always said, not even before movies, when I was in sales and marketing, I was like, there's two ways to really get your word out. You can spend a lot of money or you can get really creative. And that's the thing. I think a lot of Hollywood in certain circumstances has used the budget as a way to just kind of wow us rather than give us substance. It's like a really fluffy burger, like a beautiful looking burger, but then you go to take a bite and it's like, ugh, this is disgusting. It's like, no, I want it to taste as good as it looks. And I feel like Agatha, we didn't know really what it was going to look like on screen in the road and everything, but they gave us so much meat in there. It was so tasty. Every time we got to bite into an episode, it was like, it really just delivered. And I think, so I think Marvel is realizing, a lot of studios are realizing this too, like how to use the most of this budget and where it should go. Let's build characters. Let's build stories we can bite into, we can hold on to, and we just want to ride this ride. They just crushed it with this show though.
Yeah, that analogy got me really hungry, and we still have a long stream ahead of us.
It's almost lunch. We don't got much time left, so it's almost lunchtime.
All right, let's do two more of these. Were there any character arcs that felt incomplete? I will say I felt like Jen was rushed a little bit, just because when she did find out that who bound her, I wanted there to be more conflict between her and Agatha, but I guess actually it's more fitting for the situation. She took the power away from she broke her own bond. She took the power away, which is definitely more fitting.
Gave it back to her.
Right.
She took it for herself.
She took it for herself. Yeah. But I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more. We kept getting teased to this doctor, and so I wanted that to go. But that's all. That's almost talking about how trauma. A lot of times we kind of make things up to make the trauma worse, and then we find out no, it was just Agatha and yada yada yada. So I wanted more from Jen, but I guess they kind of gave us really everything we needed.
I agree with you. Although like it was very satisfying. Everything she got was awesome. But you're right in a sense, like it could have been this bigger deal after she's been blaming this guy for 100 years. Oh, you took my power away and everything. And then she finds out it's Agatha. And like, yes, she gets mad, but she's pretty quickly able to move through it. Yeah. It could have felt like something that they could have built out longer. But I think for the pacing of the last two episodes, it does work out pretty well. But you're right. I think that's something they could have built out a little bit longer. One person I was sad about, two people I was really sad about, Mrs. Hart. She fully, was just like doing gardening. And the next thing you know, she's dead.
Poor lady.
Like, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Alice finally breaks through everything. But she does die doing what she's supposed to, being a protector. But it was like, dang, the girl just figured all this stuff out. And now she's dead too. It was, but the road taketh away, I guess, or Rio taketh. So here we are.
That's the thing too, is when she does meet Rio as Death, she was saying like, what the heck? I just got this power back. And I think that kind of speaks to how Death works. And, but yeah, it would be nice if like maybe we see in Moon Knight, when we see some of the afterlife stuff, maybe we see, Mrs. Hart and Alice kind of hanging out or something like that in the Witch's afterlife, for, I don't know, just something fun like that would be neat.
Yeah, it would be cool. Yeah. I to your point, I did like how they started, I think it was like episode 8 with that, where we see what Alice experiences after her body, because we knew Rio wasn't outside with the rest of them after that episode. So it's like, where did she go? Well, she was collecting the soul. And I liked that they showed it from that perspective too. It was interesting. Which,
by the way, and I had brought this up at the time, Jack Schaefer told in an interview, oh no, Rio's there. She's just off camera. We just couldn't fit her in the camera. Liar. I didn't know. You didn't want us to know that she was out collecting souls, which I have money on it that Agatha knew she was doing that. Yeah.
I like that kind of lie though. That makes it better. Like, I didn't need confirmation from Andrew Garfield he was going to be in the movie or not.
He's the best example of it. Yeah.
Yeah. What we got was awesome.
Last question for you for Agatha all along. What were your first impressions of the show's opening scenes?
Oh, I loved it because I was a big fan. I'm a big fan of True Detective, and I'm a big fan of Mare of Easttown. I really loved it. I loved how they were like teasing the accents too, that Northeastern accent, not teasing, but like kind of copying it in a dramatic way. I thought that was really hilarious. And then also seeing a bunch of the cast from WandaVision. So it really did feel like a continuation of that story, you know, and we're like, what possible journey can we go on with Agatha? And there was so much mystery to it and wonder done in this really sharp look. You know, it had that HBO look to it.
Yeah.
I was just super open to whatever they were going to give me. Again, didn't have super high expectations. I felt very much like the Acolyte, like this could go great or this could go terrible. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, maybe this is going good. So I thought that those intro scenes were just really, really well done. And it kind of, it hooked me enough to be like, I'll be back next week. You know, I'll be back.
Oh yeah.
What about you?
And I especially like how all the credits were actual character names instead of, and then it was like inspired by WandaVision or something like that, like the Swedish show. Swedish version or German. Yeah. So many of these True Detective shows we watch are actually British or something like that are, you know, whatever there. Oh yes, it is Mayor of Easton. It is very worth your watch, by the way. Chat, by the way, I'm referring to chat. Definitely check that out. It's a good show. And if you liked Pietrov, he's in that show as well. So a little shout out to him.
Evan Peters. I mean, that was also an awesome kind of mid-season Easter egg, throwing him back in there. You know, I kind of wish that he wasn't Ralph Boner, right? I mean, I guess in the multiverse he could be Quicksilver again, but but I still appreciate seeing him and catching up with him as the only guy that really knows what happened in Westview.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, and he's out there trying to spread the word like aliens exist. Trust me, I was taken up, you know, kind of guy. But either way, he was fantastic too. It was fun. And his connection with Billy, that whole scene was just like a good time. It was great to see him again.
So there's a character, I don't know if it's DC or Marvel because they've both done this, that's supposed to survive the unification of the universes. So like say after the crisis events, where all of a sudden, but there's always this one character, I can't remember his name, but he remembers the old universe and he's like considered crazy. And he's sitting there.
Oh yeah.
You know which character?
I know the character you're talking about. I don't know his name though.
After Secret Wars, how great would it be if like Ralph Boner is trying to explain like, no, trust me, there was a Wanda and there was, you know, a Doctor Strange that did this, you know, like he's remembering the MCU and everybody's like, what are you talking about? Miles Morales has always been here. You know?
Right. Oh my God. That would be amazing. He just continuously is the guy who like knows things, but nobody believes him.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. That'd be awesome. As long as he also gets the double as Quicksilver in Secret Wars, I'm fine with that.
Give him some love. Yeah, I'm down for that too.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to call it here for this stream, and then we're going to pick it back up in probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours maybe. And we're going to be discussing the show Veep, which is the show I challenged Thomas to. My brain is already fried. It's been 2 hours of nonstop streaming on this.
That's right.
But we'll be talking about Veep and covering that over on Challenge Accepted, so join us there. Thank you very much, chat, for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. We're going to publish this episode as soon as possible on the actual Geek Freaks feed if you want to join us over there and listen to it again, I guess. It should be good. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging with us.